Dobar dan, dobrodošli na četvrtu unconference, or welcome to the fourth unconference. Today we're going to hold this unconference in English. I would like to thank the host today. The host is STEP-RI. It's a science and technology park here in the University of Rijeka. They are really helping us out today. We are really grateful for their space and hospitality. Without further ado, I would like to also share a bit about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is 46 Elks. We enable APIs. We enable API for SMS and voice usage, so you can integrate easily voice and SMS into your applications and services. So, without further ado, I'm going to present my first speaker, Juanluis Lozano. So please come here. So today we are going to share a bit about, so this is a mouthful, like lifestyle of a remote developer working in a distributed agency with distributed working hours. This is the working title that Juanluis has sent to me. So share a bit about that. So yeah, let's go.
COVID has been tough for everyone lately. So pretty much everyone started to work remote or work from home or work distributed somehow. So what I want to describe a little bit is that we are a native distributed agency. I work for a native distributed agency, so that's why the title Remote Native. And no, it's not another JavaScript framework, it's just the name of the presentation. And I would like about the difference between working from home, working remote, and working in a distributed company. So, what I will cover will be very short. First of all will be what's what. So what are the differences? Are they the same? Then I'm going to talk about a little bit about the secret, what I call the secret sauce. So what's the most important thing about distributed work and distributed working hours. So number three, I will just give you a short insight of my day. Again, this doesn't work for everyone, it's just how it worked for me. And number four, we'll give you some tip and tricks how to get to the best result in regards to productivity and continue working distributed. So a little bit about me. My name is Juanluis Lozano. I'm a front-end developer. I'm working for Irish-based company called Annertech. Been working for them for the last 3 years, and I've been working remote for the last 5. So it's like 5 years remote, in which I have 3 years working distributed. Gamer, kids, geek, and just what I say, living the dream of working distributed. So what's what? For my understanding, work from home is just your regular work in a corner, couch, sofa, table, studio, whatever. With working hours you have in your company, and that's it, nothing more. Remote work is do your work from home, coffee, car, public toilet. I mean, you get the idea, but on the same time span. So you have to be available from 8 to 4, 8 to 5, 9 to 4, 9 to 5, depending what's the time schedule. And distributed work is the opportunity to finally mold your work around your life and not molding your life around your work. So pretty much most of us will have some kind of appointments and say, no, I can't because I at work. Your kids want to go to the park and you will say, I can't because I'm working. So you start enjoying life. So for the company, for Annertech, for the company I work for, there's a list of all the countries where we are based. Yeah, it goes like from, I think the western point is, I guess, Spain or Ireland, and then to the eastest point is Taiwan. So it's kind of pretty big. And what's the Annertech mentality? The Annertech mentality is a little bit of the secret sauce that I will present on the next slide, but it's just do your work the best you can on the moment you feel like, you feel the most productive, you feel the most focused to do work. So, for example, 2020, everyone was kind of a bit of a mess, and to us, I'd say personally, productivity went down for about 2% because kids at home, wife at home, changed that. Never had like switching that you're not home, you're outside, you're hanging out with friends or whatever. But it's just do your best whenever. It doesn't have to be from 8 to 4. The only kind of written in stone part is that if you already said that you're attending a meeting with a client, with project manager, or with a colleague, just respect that time and be present. So, the secret sauce for me in regards to distributed work is just trust. So the company or the agency will give you the trust that you will get the work done, and the company will trust you to get the work done, and in the same time you can trust the company that they will still allow you to work distributed, to work remote. What happens the most with a lot of agencies, a lot of companies that don't allow workers to work from home is that they just don't trust them. If they still have that mentality that if you're not in the company, you're not working. Even though most people could spend 3-4 hours outside having a cigarette, having a coffee, 2 hours for lunch, but as soon as you are from 8 to 4 in the company is happy. So there's no feedback, there's no trust. They're kind of still forcing you to go to work so they can think you're working. And the trust is kind of a two-way street, because you can trust the company that you will continue working there, that you will still, you will continue getting projects, you will continue getting, let's say, education, and other colleagues can trust you in regards to, you know, I have my kids sick, can you please just jump on, and you can just get each other's back. So, a distributed day, how my day looks like and what I do. So 7:30 kids, school, daycare, whatever. From 8 to 12 work. From 12:30 to 4:30 gym. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like, but yeah, go. 2:30 to 3 p.m. lunch. p.m. to 5 p.m. work. 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So at the end of the day, I go to work, get the kids to school, I have family time, and I have a big, let's say, time span between noon and 3 p.m. And I still get the same 6 productive hours that everyone is expecting you to have. So basically, I'm trying to avoid burnout, because when you're working distributed, you're kind of, yeah, okay, I don't have anything smart to do, I'll just keep working, and you didn't realize, and you just burn out. And this not quite appealing, like, okay, yeah, I go to the gym, I go to the gym in the afternoon, or I don't have kids, I have time for that. Again, every person has a different case. But this is my schedule pretty much from fall to spring. So we'll say September to May, early June. And now, okay, so now, what's my summer working hours? So I wake up at 8. I don't have the need to wake up at 6:30 or 6. So 9 to 12 work, 12:30, 5:30, 3:30 kids family time, 3:30 to 5 p.m. work, family time and work. So basically I split my day in more bigger chunks. So you have time for work and you have time for kids and family, and you still are having the same 6 working hours, 6 productive hours. Of course, it doesn't have to be this way. This is the way that works the best for me. Even though there's one thing on this schedule that I didn't mention, is that on the last block of work, after the last block of work, I like to do something that I'm disconnected from the computer, and I don't go from the computer to bed, so I don't have the feeling that I'm working from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. Just have some time gaps in there. So, what's a common day situation that happens to everyone and the distributed work allows you to do, and why did I say mold work to your life and not life to your work? So basically, a friend calls, let's go a coffee, let's go for a beer, let's go whatever. I mean, you can do it. The bank calls, the accountant called, or someone else called, you need to pick up a card, pick up a check, you need to go and sign some papers, you need to whatever, you can just go. Family trip, it happens. Like there's a family discount from Tuesday to Thursday on X park, let's go. Yeah, we can do it. I mean, it's not a problem. And one of the things that people kind of oversee, it's being blocked. It happens to everyone. So you're not productive, you have just a task to get a piece of paper, write 2 words, but your brain is kind of unable to pick up the paper because you're just blocked, just tired, stress, weather, who knows? And pretty much what we do in Annertech, and what I like to do, is just communicate to everyone like, you know what, I'm blocked, goodbye, see you tomorrow, see you in 2 days, I need to have some time out. And of course, the company trusts that I will come back in 2 days, fresh, productive, and etc. So, some tips and tricks that works for me working remote and working distributed. So, have a notebook. Yes, paper. For me, works having a list of tasks that I can just see and mark them down in a paper. I know I'm a developer, there are kind of 2 million apps that I can take notes on, but for me, the paper feeling is still there. Constant communication with the project manager, other devs, company owner, whatever. So it has to be very, you have to have a very good communication in between, so everything is clear. One thing I like to say is like, there are no stupid questions, but stupid people who don't ask questions. If you're working remote, if you're feeling blocked, just ask. It's much better to ask a colleague, a PM, an owner, and get something read or solved in 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, than just banging your head against a wall for 2 days because you don't know how to solve it, or just you don't have the expertise or the experience to solve it. Find your comfort zone in different environments ours. There's a lot of people that say that cannot work if there are kids running around. There's people that say that they're not bothered if kids are running around. People that say that they need a quiet environment, light noises and stuff like that. There are people that they just don't care about the noise. So it's something very personal. Everyone is different. And one of the things I do a lot is just keep the track of the time I have been working during the day. So let's say you have X amount of features that you need to do in a day. Just write them down, write how much time you spend on each feature, so you see, okay, I've been working now for 6 hours, it's time to stop. And that's also to avoid burnout. So it's just, I did my day, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, depending however you work. And just keeping track. Have an organized and dedicated space at home works for me. So basically, the picture on your left, my right, looks how I like it to be, and the other picture looks how it usually is. So, but keeping things organized help a lot visually to have everything like set it up properly. So, avoid at all costs these apps where you're working, because I mean, I didn't forget 9gag because those are hours of just scrolling, sharing, copying, pasting, commenting, and so on, so on. And to avoid this, what I do personally, I forgot to add it to the slides, is I follow the Pomodoro approach. So it's 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes. I mean, there are 4 blocks of 25 minutes with 5-minute break. And after 4 blocks, you get 15 minutes like longer break. So this is what I like to use. So in the other hand, you need to be very mature to, okay, the 5 minutes are up, so just put the phone or close the tab and continue working. I think there's one more slide, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you have, it doesn't work or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's pretty much it. That's the last slide says just thank you.
Okay, so it works.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening.
Sure.
I don't know if people have any questions, comments.
Does anyone have any questions, perhaps? I have one. Okay. Okay. Here you go.
Yeah, so I'm interested. Which tools do you use for communication? Is it Slack only?
Currently, we're using Teams.
Teams, okay.
Yeah. Until a year ago, we used something called Rocket Chat, which is kind of Slack, but we had it self-hosted. But then something happened between support and the licensing and some director stuff, and we moved to Teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking because if you're in different time zones and you're not working at the same time, then sometimes you have a question, but there is no one to answer. Maybe I don't know, how do you handle those kind of situations?
Luckily for us, there's a big chunk of people that we overlap. Let's say we're like about 30 developers now, and I would say 18 to 20 overlap. So that's good, even though not all of us are working on the same project. We're kind of spread across a lot of projects, but it kind of helps that, for example, John, which is in Taiwan, he's he's 6 hours ahead of us, and the good thing is that for him, it's good to work at night, because during the day he also has kids and he can just get rid of all those paperwork day-to-day basis, and at 6 p.m. he will start working, or 4 p.m. he will start working, and he will work until 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that, which overlaps a lot with us. But for example, we have 2 colleagues, they are from New Zealand, but they live in Ireland, and when they travel abroad, they're like pretty much on their own. You can expect responses like a day after or something like that. Good thing is that, and this kind of important, is that on our company, I'd say all of us are seniors, so there's no much education. Maybe at the beginning when someone is kind of started to get rolling in the company, so it's kind of, okay, better to have the same working times. But after a month or 2, you're just free to go. Yeah.
Do you maybe record meetings sometimes? Or?
We have every, I think once a month or once every 6 weeks, we have something we call Annertech Days, and we usually record that. But those meetings for us are not related to work. It's just mostly, okay, let's discuss how can we do stuff better, how can we improve on X, Y, Z features or areas. And we would record those calls, and so people can just have a look later. Those calls are usually based in Dublin, so every 3 months, all of us will just gather in Ireland for having 2 or 3 days of meetings and team building and social interaction, which is very important. But over the last, let's say, 2 years, we have been just doing it remotely.
So there is no gathering.
Yeah, 2020 was no gathering. The last gathering was, actually the last gathering, if I'm not mistaken, was February, February 2020, before everything kind of.
Yeah. Maybe you should invite them now to Croatia for a gathering.
Yeah, it's difficult. I have been asking that for like 3 years, but the problem is that we're like 40 people in total, in which about 20 are in Ireland. So it's easier for 20 of us just go different flights and stuff like that to go to Ireland than moving 20 people from Ireland to Croatia and the rest of the people to Croatia, because I have a colleague which lives also here in Rijeka, and okay, that's only 2 of us. But then like 38 people needs to come here instead of just 20 going to Ireland.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions perhaps? Oh, cool.
Hello.
Hi.
My question is, which app do you use for follow up all activities for one project, or how you follow up like Pentagram? Do you use some application which you follow up project progression or something like this?
Trello.
I'm using Trello. It's terrible for me. I really used 3 months, and I couldn't get used to it. I used it on the paper. I follow up on the paper, and it's fine. But when you're somewhere, it's much easier, much better to have application and just check. Like I have to do lists and everything like this, but doesn't seem practical for me.
No, I think Trello is a good tool, but and I think, to be honest, I mean, of course, everyone will say Jira, but for me personally, and for a lot of people, Jira is just overwhelming. It's like too much. It's like to just record how much time I spent on X task. I need to do like 40 clicks, 2 reports, export 2 PDFs, and it's like crazy. So Trello for us, it works. And on the previous companies where I worked, we also use Trello. But I'd say Trello works depending on how the tasks are broken down in Trello.
I think this is the point, because I also saw of the task of my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. She's working in one company here from Rijeka. Mm-hmm. She's doing like data science, and they are communicating with American clients, and they really have a very good way how to resolve all the tasks, and all activities. For me, I'm not quite in IT. I'm electrical engineer. Mm-hmm. I'm designing, and so I'm also project manager. So I need to follow up from the shipping to designing to the production. So it's a little bit hard to create task and to really follow up better, because like you said, so it's so many clicks to just follow up some simple activity. So I don't want to do this.
No, I mean, Trello works fine, for example, when you break down something with using, let's say, Agile or something like that, where you will just break a big feature into small features, and then on that big feature, you will just link all the cards from the small feature from that big one. It works fine. The other good thing about Trello is that it gives more, I mean, that's my point of view. It gives more clarity to the client, because Trello is easy for the client, just cards, and they will just click, open, see the description, you leave a note for the client, and that's it. They don't have to kind of force themselves in trying to find something that they are interested in. It just it really depends how you break down all the features or all the tasks you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Anyone else have any questions, perhaps? I have a question. Mm-hmm. So, what is your kind of more productive period of the day? Is it morning or the afternoon? How do you assign your tasks and work? What do you do in the morning, and what do you do in the afternoon when it comes to work?
It really depends. It really depends the mood when waking up. I feel more productive in the morning than in the afternoon. And just because I have to take the kids to school, I come back, it's still 8 a.m., it's fresh. I mean, nothing just happened. I'm not under stressed, so I can just feel productive. And usually after lunch is kind of the time of the day where you start feeling tired and you just ate and you're like, do I have to keep doing this? But it really depends. I mean, I'd say it depends how well rested I am or what are the tasks. I mean, as a developer, as a, I don't know, doctor, as a, whatever career you have, there will be some tasks you just don't like to do them. And, but you have to. So I'd say depending the tasks, but 90% of the time I'm more productive in the morning, that's for sure. And mostly because here in Croatia we used to have like some kind of late lunch. We eat lunch, I mean when you're at home you eat lunch like 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. So I find that time spent between breakfast and lunch like a big chunk of time, rather than, okay, 3 p.m. I am getting lunch, 3:30, I need to pick the kids from school, so it's like already 4 p.m. It's like, yeah, but now what? So, yeah, pretty much.
Did Annertech go distributed before the pandemic?
Yes,
okay.
we were distributed even before the pandemic, so it didn't change much for us other than productivity, because having kids at home and having all the family at home and having you pretty much locked down in how many meters your house has. It's, let's say, psychological affected a little bit. That, I mean, for all of us, not just for us, but locally we were adapted to that workflow already, so it didn't kind of hit hard. It hit hard mostly, I would say, on clients that had to adapt, and then everything turned a little bit slower. But after, I don't know, I'd say 6 months of pandemics, the clients were already like ready to go. But believe me or not, I mean, I thought that the clients will take like, that it will take for the clients to adapt to a remote work much longer. Because usually you get a developer that has working in-house for 10 years, put it to work at home, it will be hard. Not just work at home, but work at home, there's your wife, there's your kids, and you're not allowed to go out. And that period will be like 6 months. So for a client which does regular office work, not just developing and communicate and all that stuff in 6 months, I think it's very, very fast.
Cool. Okay, if anyone else, okay, everyone's fine. Thanks, Juanluis.
Anytime.
Next up is Matea Tomić. She will talk about UX design in business. Such a generic topic. So I'll help you out with the presentation. I'll just take the mic from.
How do I just clip it on?
If you can't use this.
It's okay.
Sure. And the controller is there.
Okay.
Cool. Take it away, Matea.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. So today I am going to talk about a very tough subject, and that is the importance of UX in business. These are some of the most common questions that I get asked, like why is user experience important? What does UX design mean for my business? What do I get out of investing in UX for my business? So I'll try to answer all these questions now. And I will give you an overview what a UX design process looks like. And then afterwards, I will show you how to put that UX design process into practice and how to make your business better with all of these UX methods. So this is something about me, not really that important. I am a freelance user experience UI designer. I'm working for an American startup, and I'm also a mentor. I'm mentoring over around 20 students now. I'm teaching them UI design. So that's what I'm dealing with lately. And this is, I'll cover intro, like what UX design actually is, and then later I'll start with the process. So Basically, UX design is the process that helps us designers to improve, to define, and to create a strategy for products and projects that provide meaningful and beautiful experiences, hopefully, after this whole process is done. This UX process consists of several different stages, and not all of the stages can be utilized at the same time for one project. It really depends on the type of the project and the type of the client you're working on. So you're not always going to use all of these steps. So sometimes you will find that definition stage is not really that important because you already have a customer base from before. You don't need to define a target audience all over again. So you are most probably going to skip that and jump straight into the ideation phase and so on and so on. So this is just a high-level overview how this UX design process looks like. And I will just briefly explain each of those so that later on, when I explain how these things can benefit you, you can understand it more easily. So a discover phase usually consists of user research and competitor analysis. Now, user research can consist of user surveys, user interviews, where you are basically getting to know your target audience a little bit better or your existing customers. Competitor analysis is something that helps you to define your competitors, to research them, and to see what your competitors have and that you can use to make it even better, to improve your UX even better. In definition phase, we are synthesizing all of the research that we have taken before into personas, customer journey maps, and empathy maps. And there's actually one more thing here that I'm also going to mention later, and that is storyboarding, which is also a great tool that can help you to basically get to know, let's say, emotions and scenarios in which users would potentially use your products. So I will touch on that later. So this is the step where you are actually getting to know your user. In ideation phase, you are making things more tangible, more precise. So when we talk about user flows, you are basically mapping out you're mapping out the journey that your customer is going to take from one point to another point, and this step is very important to iterate on because with each iteration you're going to improve and you're going to make the product better and easier to use for your potential customers. Wireframes and prototypes go hand in hand together because these two elements can be iterated upon and you can test them out to improve your product even better. The design phase it's self-explanatory. This is basically where we combine all of the elements that we have found previously into one, into design and something that we are actually going to show off to the client for the approval. In testing phase, so I would argue that this phase comes in the end. Testing phase is something that is important to do as early in the design process as possible, preferably in the wireframing and prototyping phase, because you can address issues early on. So you don't need to wait until the product is developed in order to improve some things. Okay, so all of these things that I have mentioned, why are these things important? And to be more precise, like what are the benefits if you try to think about them in the business context? So the first thing is that investing in UX design upfront can significantly reduce costs down the line. And what that means is if you address the issues early on in the whole UX design process, you are more likely to have less issues later on when the development is done. So, for example, usability testing and prototyping are two things that can help you drastically with those two things. So whenever I'm designing, for example, every time I already have a tangible prototype, it doesn't need to be like a finished design or anything. If it's only like wireframes, low fidelity wireframes, I immediately send them out to testing. So it's either moderated usability test. I do it if I have something more complex, or unmoderated, where I just send it out to people and then they give me feedback. So I noticed that if I utilize these usability testings as early on, there is a significant reducing in problems when it comes to development and the actual usage of the product. Second is that user experience can actually help you increase your conversions. And I mean, whenever you're using a product or an app, the most important thing for you is that that product is very easy, very simple, and very straightforward to use. Think about checkout process, for example. If that checkout process is super long, it's super complex, it has a lot of I don't know, inputs and things that you need to enter, you're more likely to drop off, and you're not going to continue with it in the long run. So with this step, the most important thing that you can take from the UX design process is iterating on user flows, because user flows are the maps that will help you create an experience that is going to be as easy and as simple for your customers as possible. In the end, of course, prototyping and wireframes can also help, but my main focus here, how to improve this, are user flows. So when it comes to SEO, Google usually pushes websites that have better user experience to the top of the page. So this is also one key thing that you should think about when considering should I invest in UX or not, because having better user experience is more likely for your page to be actually recommended by Google, and it adds to the overall credibility of your either brand or project or platform, whatever you're working on. With this in general, I wouldn't necessarily emphasize only these solutions, like usability testing and prototyping, but I would say that UX design process as a whole can definitely improve this problem in particular. Brand loyalty. Brand loyalty is something that will make your users stay and use your products even more. And what that means precisely is that if your website, if your product, if your business is enjoyable to use, if rewards the users in some way, they're more likely to stay. And key factors here that play a great role are creating customer journey maps, storyboards, and personas. These three things are more focused on how the customer feels like about the product you're offering to people. So with customer journey maps, you're basically mapping out the customer's journey. I mean, it's self-explanatory, it's in the title. But at the same time, you're also mapping, so you're laying down a hypothesis. How do you think that your potential customer is feeling about your product? And that is not a data that you're just kind of making it up. It's data that is going to come out from the user research. So imagine you already have a base of customers, and you want to see how well are they perceiving your brand. You're going to send them out a survey with a couple of key questions that are important for this step. And based on those metrics, you are going to create current state of your customer journey. And then you will identify pain points, why are they not satisfied with your product, and then upon that, you can iterate and create various different solutions. So that is the key point of creating a good customer journey map. Storyboarding, I like to use storyboarding when I don't have enough data to create a good customer journey map. So I see storyboarding more as a hypothesis than something that is more concrete. Storyboarding is something that usually Disney or DreamWorks use for their cartoons, for their animated series, and lately more and more product-based companies have started using storyboarding because it actually. So how it works, essentially, they are putting the customer in a context of using the app. So you're basically sketching how a customer is interacting with your product. Like, okay, he is now sitting at the computer. He is checking his emails. Then he starts working on something else. Then he goes back, check his emails, does whatever. And that kind of helps. It's more of a collaborative thing. So it helps people, it helps everyone on board stay on the same topic. So that is kind of cool, but I rarely used it because it wasn't as necessary. No, I skipped one. Okay, that's it. This is the final one. So UX design. This kind of relates to the loyalty part, but this is also as important. So whenever you find a cool website that is easy to use, you are more likely to refer it to someone. So and that is important to include on your site in the end of the day. So having good customer base, having good customer reviews is also something that you can consider while creating good UX. But at the same time, you're going to have a good customer base if you have a good UX. So it's kind of it's kind of related together. And I actually had in mind one more slide, and that is you don't necessarily, just a summation, like a sum up slide, you don't necessarily need to think about utilizing UX in your business, on your products, just because of these 5 reasons. You need to consider and think about high quality UX because you are going to improve lives of people who are using your products. That should be the main premise. That should be the thing that should kind of drive businesses altogether. So improving websites, improving products so that people's lives are easier, more simple, and so that you get more value from it in the long run. So yeah, I hope this kind of helped you understand why UX is important in businesses altogether. So yeah, that is it from me. If you have any questions, please be gentle.
Hi. So I know that UX is, people compare it like to a bad joke, like because if you have to explain it, so it's not a good UX. But how UX has changed in the last, let's say, 5 years in regards to accessibility? And I know accessibility has a major hit in UI than in UX, but still, I mean, if you have, as you said, if you have a checkout process that has, I don't know, 40 fields that someone needs to fill, it's not kind of it's overwhelming to have a screen reader reading you the 40 fields you need to fill before you're filling it. So how does accessibility affect UX or the other way around?
Well, all of these things that you mentioned, they definitely need to be addressed in some UX process stage. So if over the last 5 years, what I have noticed, like more and more products are going towards like improving accessibility and keeping an eye on all those things. But I feel like that is also a result because more and more companies and businesses are starting to get educated on the purpose of UX, and therefore, just you know, because they're educated, they have started to hire qualified designers to help them out with that. Because 5 years ago you didn't have UX researchers, for example, or accessibility specialists, or I don't know, interaction designers. So more and more, as the years go by, more and more designers are becoming more specialized into these specific fields of design. And as the years go by, I feel like that, that is going to be even more specific. So because I know when I first started out, I knew about UI and UX. That's it, and only a couple of years ago, maybe 4 to 5 years ago, I noticed that we have UX researchers, we have UX writers, we have interaction designers. So because I feel like because all of that is happening, more and more companies are starting to think about these things even more. Because now I know that some companies actually do have designers who are specialized only for accessibility issues.
I have a question, which is really like, I would like you to give me a support and maybe some advice on it. So I work in a digital marketing department, and for people that don't really know what digital marketing is, I believe that everybody knows, but marketing is, on your second slide you mentioned conversions. So marketing is basically how to create a conversion. It could be like from a visitor to a prospect. So that is one conversion. Second is, let's say, from a prospect to a buyer, from a buyer to a loyalty. So marketing is responsible for the conversions. So what I have issue, which was before 5 years ago it was a challenge, now it's a problem with the designers, is that when I write some highlights on how some site or some landing page should look like, so I write guidelines. This should be a headline. This should be call to action button. So we need this information. After that, user goes there. So when I write that, developers, they understand perfectly what I need. Mm-hmm. But designers, they always have something to add or to make it more beautiful, or to use something they read lately, some, let's say, late big things in the industry, to apply that in that for that particular client. But after working 5 or 7 years for a client, basically you know what converts, what doesn't convert, and you don't have really a space to make A/B testing, or to, take a risk on will you make millions or not, So how should we approach to a marketing department, or to a designer department, or to designers, to really explain them how things, what should be the end result, without experiencing that issues of their own playfulness, which we admire, and their things they would like to add to the company or to brand, how to deal with that. So that is a first question. And the second question is how to deal with that without being egoistic. Let's say, because the hierarchy is like business, marketing, and then everybody else. So for me, it is very unpolite to say to a designer, just cross everything and say, this is not good, we need that. So how to, make a team?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to tell you how I would approach it. So, for example...
Just to add, you are the only designer that I never had issue with. That's why I'm here. I respect you a lot.
Okay, so I'll tell you how I would approach it. Okay, so if you told me, okay, this is what works. We need this on the homepage, and or this is the final, like this is the goal. Like we need to achieve this. I would like my first step would be to ask you, okay, what's our target audience? Okay, like we need to have a target audience, and if you are working in marketing, you already have that. You know, you have, let's say, some personas. You know, we can work with that. Second step would be creating user flows that would cover the whole site. So ideally, you would already have a sitemap, right? So you have all the pages laid out. After that, so I would create a user flow, and we would work together, like iteratively on that user flow to achieve what's best from the marketing, business, and design side. And then afterwards, you know, we can be, you know, playful, how to make that pretty, but at the same time to achieve the same goal. But from what I hear, you said that some designers, you know, were super playful, they were changing things, etc., etc. I feel like you were working with UI designers, you know. So I feel like you need someone who is going to set up the foundations, like UX foundations for you first, and then wrap up everything in a nice UI, visually appealing way.
So basically, the designer department needs to organize themselves, like to have, let's say, a leader who will understand everything, and then
you need to have. You don't necessarily need to have a leader. You can have a UX designer. UX designer is going to work with you to create a strategy for your product. Like UX designer is going to create user flows, personas, wireframes, prototypes, and that's his job, like to create the best possible strategy for you. UI designer is the one that is going to take it over because his visual skills are, you know, aesthetics is super high, and it's going to create that thing pretty. And UI and UX designer are working together on that.
Maybe if you can help with one more question or answer. How to make that happen if you are outsourced?
Well, ideally, if you're outsourcing, then I'm assuming you would want only one person, both UX and UI designer. But in reality, what would work best is to have UX designer and a UI designer.
So all companies, I hope you heard that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, perhaps? Okay. Philip?
Yeah, I would like to ask, let's say, what would be your ideal, how do you imagine your ideal collaboration between developers and, or do you work directly with developers? And what are some kind of, let's say, challenges? How do you hand over the work? Do you use some kind of tools to do that?
Okay, so...
And what would be ideal, let's say, collaboration example?
Oh, that's a tough question. Yeah, so currently I'm working as both UX and UI, so I'm responsible for both sides, and obviously I'm responsible for handoff as well at the end of the process. And ideally, I hand it off to the developer, and developer asks me nothing. Like, that's it, you know, I just hand it over. But, you know, in reality, it's not like that, because there is always like, how can I export this? Can you send me this? You know, maybe, you know, if you're working, yeah, if you're working on a large product or project, I mean, so recently I worked on a project, I needed to design like 80 different screens. You know, there's a 100% chance that there's going to be something missing from that, either wrong fonts or maybe colors a little bit different, and of course there will be questions. So for me, the best possible way to hand something off is I use Figma. Figma is a design tool that is easy for developers as well to use, because they can view some elements in code as well. So Figma is my go-to tool. If the client does not work in Figma, I also know how to work in Sketch, so I use InVision for the handoff later on. I also use Zeppelin. So how do I say this? I try to make developers' life easier so they're not lost in the process and whatever. So I just really try to do my best with that.
And do you have some kind of workshops to explain the main point, let's say to explain about the personas and who is going to use, or maybe it's, I don't know, at the end not necessary for developers. I mean, all those things make the whole process more expensive because you spend time. But probably you need to have some kind of at least explanation.
It depends on the client.
And then explain.
Yeah. I mean, that depends on the client, obviously. If there's space, of course, I'm going to do some education workshops, etc. So every time I get onboarded, I try to educate people who are going to work with me, like how do I work, like my principles, and what can they expect. So ideally, I would have a small workshop. Like a 30 minutes, 45 minutes meeting where I would explain, okay, guys, this is the process. I'm working like this. These are the personas. And in the end, handles looks like this. I mean, of course, as the process goes on, I try to work as closely as possible to whoever is involved on the project so that everything hopefully goes smoothly.
What about those, let's say, technical constraints? So if you imagine some kind of it's a UI which is maybe more challenging to develop, or it's not, let's say developer said this is not possible to do, so we cannot do that. Not maybe because they don't know how to do it, or maybe it takes more time for them and they don't want to do it. But how do you handle those kind of situations? Is it often or not? Okay, it depends on the site probably.
It depends on.
Everything is possible from the software design. Yeah, but,
of course,
sometimes but there are some restrictions. For example, if you imagine to load, I don't know, 50 images on the first page or in one download, then those are, let's say, kind of different constraints, let's say technical constraints. So you're loading a lot of data, but the user is not going to use that data at all. So they're just want to see one thing. So,
well,
I mean, do you think about those things as well, or you work together with, I don't know, technical lead sometimes?
Well, I managed to encounter all of these challenges. So I'll go step by step. So one of the challenges was the exact thing that you said now. So there were some like really technical constraints that we couldn't do. But in that case, I always talk to like either a developer or technical lead how to create the best possible experience. Because every time there's a constraint, I like to think about from the customer's perspective or user's perspective how they're going to perceive this. So in communication with the developer, I try to come up with the best possible solution at a given time. Like, for example, if there's something that we're developing for the MVP, it needs to go out tomorrow. We don't have enough time to redesign it all over again. We're going to go with the easiest solution for the developer, and then later on we can improve it. So that's the kind of a premise if I encounter these issues. There were also times when I designed something, but developers just, I don't know, they just didn't find it interesting to do it. I don't know, so they just didn't want to do it. And I'm like, fine, okay, but then we can do it for the later stages, okay? For the MVP, we can do it like this, but keep in mind we should do something like that for later. So, it all comes down to I just try to postpone things if I can't do them right now. Like, okay, we are going to do them later. Like, don't forget about them.
The last one. In software development, there are hundreds of frameworks we use every day as software developers. I see in design there are also frameworks, and my question is, and one of them, let's say, material design. What do you think about those frameworks in design? Do you like them, or they are maybe too constraining because it's everything predefined already? Yeah, maybe.
It depends on the project you're working on. So I had the opportunity to work on a big B2B SaaS platform, for example. And you know, we didn't really have resources or time to create everything from scratch. So in order to speed up our cycle, you know, design cycle, we decided to use material design. We kind of tweaked some elements, but the core framework, material design framework was still there. So that helped us to kind of jumpstart everything. For example, when I'm designing maybe iOS app or something, I know that I will first go to the human guidelines from the Apple, and that will help me. I'm not necessarily going to take like all the visuals, colors, and all of that, but that will help me to get the measures right. You know, for example, the area where the notch is, how big the menu area needs to be or high, you know, so it will help me with those things. So I mean, I find them useful. It's not something that I find too constraining.
It makes the project more, let's say, cheaper, I guess.
Yeah.
A bit.
A bit, yeah.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions, perhaps? Cool. Okay. Thank you, Matea.
Thank you.
So that's pretty much it. Thank you for attending, and you are very welcome to join us next time. We're going to have another unconference next November, this November. So thank you for attending. Thank you for being here.